Hey, g'day, boys and girls, Sheilers and blokes. My name is Jacob, and today I'm going to be giving my first impression of a very interesting game called Astris. Now, I imagine every single person subscribed to me is probably thinking to themselves, what the bloody hell is Astris? Well, let me explain. It is a mobile game, and as I say that, please don't click away just yet. I know mobile games get an understandably bad rep for feeling cheap, being rubbish, and trying to empty your wallet, but Astris is a little different, because despite being both a mobile game and developed by a successful gacha game company, this game is one upfront purchase. It is a premium game. It cost me 15 AUD to buy, that's 15 Australian dollars. This is one upfront purchase. It has no real money gambling gimmicks whatsoever, just like the games I imagined you loved growing up. So this will be my first impression of Astris. I've played about 3.5 hours thus far before stopping to record. I'll eventually do a full review another day when I'm completely finished with everything in the game, but getting to that's going to be hard because I've got a lot going on. So first I'm going to begin with the story side of the game, since that's typically my favourite part of a video game, which, is ironic since Monster Hunter is my favourite game, but I digress. I love RPGs, especially JRPGs, or Asian RPGs in this case specifically, as I find the Eastern style of storytelling far more compelling, if that makes any sense. And when it comes to Astris, well, it has a story, but 3 hours in, I'm very confused about almost all of it. Like, straight from the first scene, there's a lot of unique terms used to describe the universe which... Okay. Let me start with a little synopsis. You begin the game as Yan, an Earther as humans get called, on some alien planet, or at least I think it's a planet, and I think it's called Alandish? Again, the terms are confusing. The game begins immediately dropping the player on a train with an extremely brief summary as to why Yan is there before the train crashes. Now Yan is on an adventure with one of the aliens called V to the power of 3, who also survived the crash. There also seems to be some past relationship between the two different races. I have little idea about that yet. One thing I do love about the story is most things in this game get a codex entry, and these have really nice artwork and a little banter with the characters. I 100% recommend you check these entries as you unlock them. I have been having to read them and then later rereading them to try and cipher what's going on. Again, there's many unique terms used and I'm still wrapping my brain around them. Personally, I find the art style in Astris rather nice. I love how the environments look and the music that accompanies them is very atmospheric. There's something otherworldly about it all that really makes the whole game's presentation incredible to me. The mystique of everything I've seen and heard combined with the game not having a clear direction for the story fits together so well, at least in my head, like perhaps I'm crazy? The best comparison I can make is to an indie game called Spirit of the North. I'm not sure how many people watching this has heard of that or even played the game, but the whole aesthetic of that game feels similar to Astris, with the mysterious environment, the atmospheric music, and the story you slowly pick up on running through it. I'm reminded so much of Spirit of the North in that way. If you're someone who likes this game or that, then I would recommend picking up the other one if you haven't yet. Now getting into the gameplay, this is where Astris gets far more enticing. The exploration from the 3 levels I've played feels rather basic, as you can't jump or anything fancy movement wise other than when scripted. But the areas are designed small and dense enough that doesn't feel like an issue yet. There's chests to loot, items to gather, and enemies to fight, you know, usual RPG stuff. The levels or areas I've played are for the most part linear, but they loop around some way so there's no issue backtracking for too long. You can also travel back and forth to most of these areas for farming items and XP, which, since this isn't a shitty free-to-play game, the respawns aren't time-gated for maximum retention. You're free to farm as much as you want, but I haven't found myself in the position I need to grind in just yet. There's also a cooking system that uses some of these items you can gather for battle buffs, and I think crafting too maybe, however I haven't unlocked that yet to confirm it. But I am getting rocks and ores and metals that I imagine aren't going to be used in our food. I've also unlocked one town so far that has a couple shops and some very basic side quests, so there is that. It's also the only spot in the game I've game overed, since the watermill here is an instant death if you misstep. I kinda wonder if that was a design oversight. The combat in Astris I've been having a lot of bloody fun with. The game's a turn-based RPG, but it doesn't feel like that for the most part. I mean it does, but Hypergriff did so much more to differentiate it. Like, when someone normally thinks of a turn-based RPG, I imagine most people think of the genre staples like Final Fantasy or Pokemon, or more recently in popularity Persona, but Astris does a lot more awesome stuff with the turn-based combat. Each turn starts with the player's phase before the enemies. Your party will have 3 characters out of I believe 6 total to choose from in the game. I've only unlocked 3 of the characters so far, but I know that's the party size limit. So the way you attack is by comboing moves between the current party member's moveset until you run out of AP. The movesets are customizable in the menu. There's 2 moveset loadouts called Wave and Particle to set up, and you can swap between these stances on the player's phase. I'm going to make another comparison now and say that this gameplay is a lot like Valkyrie Profile, and that gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I goddamn love Valkyrie Profile. Valkyrie Profile 2 in particular was my first JRPG, and likely my all-time favourite JRPG, so whenever I see inspiration from it in other games, I'm happy. Really bloody happy. I'll explain further anyway, since likely most people still listening at this point might not be familiar with the Valkyrie Profile series. So when customizing a character's moveset, you're going to want to consider the attack effects, for which there looks to be a lot. For example, throughout my time playing thus far, I've been sticking to the one combo that has Yan knock an enemy airborne before slamming it down, which gives plus 1 AP. Then I use V3's attack that does a little extra damage to downed affected enemies, and if I have the spare AP after that, I'll get a jab in from V3's pet. This worked well until the most recent area I visited where an enemy I encountered was immune to being knocked airborne. I really need to take the time experimenting again next time I play now I've got more attacks to choose from. I already run into an issue during staggers, which staggers happen when you've attacked an enemy enough to break their stagger gauge. During this stagger, you'll attack an enemy without consuming AP for several seconds, and since V3 and her pet cannot currently strike airborne enemies with the current combo setup I'm using, Yan will fling the target airborne, causing the other two's attacks to miss until Yan's follow-up knocking it back down. I really love how deep this combat is beginning to look. Adding complex combos to a turn-based game already makes the game incredibly engaging. But when you move to the enemies phase, you don't just sit there and take the damage like in some other games. No, you interact with that damage. So, depending on the character you currently have picked as the defender, you can do different actions during the enemy's attack. Yan has a precision dodge that will charge the ultimate gauge if executed correctly, whereas V to the power of 3 will parry and deal stagger damage to the attacker. Lately there's been a lot more games taking this approach to damage like Atelier Ryza and Yakuza 7, and I approve. But anyway, most attacks you can use either character, however some attacks will flash a specific color that can only be dodged or parried, so you'll need to adjust your defending character around between the enemy's attacks. I find adjusting to these certain attacks and finding the right timing here extremely fun. Lastly, for the combat, or at least what I've currently unlocked, are items and tools. These kinda work the same as in other games, so I won't really explain them. If you play it, you'll find out for yourself. I seriously love this. The combat is the most engaging I've found in any turn-based RPG. It almost feels like an action game. Final Fantasy VII Remake only wishes it pulled off a gameplay balance this fun. But it's not all praise for me. I do have a few critiques. Starting with the overworld dialogue, it's sometimes auto-played too fast to read. Likely this is an issue of being translated from Chinese, since some sentences can be really short in their language compared to mine. Hopefully this gets fixed in a later update. The game's not even been out a week yet as I'm making this. I also want a dialogue history box so I can reread sentences I've missed or to refresh my memory from past scenes. I want this in every game I play. It's almost become a standardized feature. Even Arknights had it, so it's unfortunate Astris didn't at launch given they're made by the same developers. Now, I already mentioned Astris is a mobile game, and I don't like playing these on a phone. I wish it would have at least had a Steam launch. I had to use Moomoo Player to get this working on my computer since the other emulators I use had compatibility issues. A game like this will hopefully see some ports to other systems. I think Steam and Switch would suit it nicely like they have for Mustache. And as previously mentioned, the story isn't straightforward and there's too much terminology used, making it very hard to follow. Even though I eventually came to liking it this way, it's far from ideal. Yan in particular is really unlikable, at least from the 3 hours I've played. I think a better introduction sequence could help fix her character. I really hope this game does well, because I want to see more premium mobile game experiences like this one. I am sick of seeing really enticing games that will throw microtransactions at you constantly. Even if they are good games like Arknights. I love Arknights, I've said it a lot in my videos already, and I'll probably continue saying it in future ones. But when it makes you gamble for, at worst, a 2% chance of getting a new character, I hate it. I'm someone who would have preferred it if Genshin was an upfront purchase for the base game at launch, and then you pay once a year for each expansion, because I enjoy playing Genshin, but everything that makes it a live service gacha game kills any fun I find in playing it. You either throw all the currency you spend every day for half a year grinding into the slot machine, and if you're unlucky, then what? Do you just give up? Or do you give into that sunk cost feeling and spend your real hard-earned money to try rolling again? Like, I fucking hate that. I hate this style of monetization. I hate games that trick you into thinking you should spend money on them. That's why I think Astris is great. You give the devs $15 upfront, like 15 Australian dollars. 15 Australian dollaritos. This is already cheaper than like buying a 10 pull in one of these gacha games. You're getting an entire game with none of that stupid microtransaction gambling crap. I've saw people complaining about having to spend money on this, like, it's crazy. Okay, this is beginning to get into an entirely different video topic I may make one day, because I've long spoke to people about upfront cost versus free-to-play versus subscription model games. And yeah, I'll save all that for another time. Probably. My point here is to support Astris if you want to see more games like this. I'm also aware this isn't the first premium costing mobile game ever made. I mentioned Vuestash a bit before, and I've also bought other games like Citus 2 and Monster Hunter Stories mobile port. But Astris is special because this is made by Hypergriff, a company who has been making mad bank off Arknights. Even if that's not the biggest gacha game around, Arknights still finds its way into the top 10 highest grossing gacha games some months with millions of dollars in sales. Hypergriff could have easily tried making this another gacha game if they wanted to, but thankfully they didn't. I think this could be the start of a huge change for mobile games going forward. A similar thing happened last month with Granblue Fantasy Relink. We're starting to see gacha game developers make real games for a change, and I hope this continues in the future. Like, imagine if MiHoYo eventually gets to this stage. We'd be eating real good on the mobile market. It might even change the general audience perspective of mobile gaming entirely. But anyway, that's been my first impression on Astris with a small side of a gacha game rant. I'm hoping you enjoyed this, and I also hope you want to give Astris a go. I'll be playing more, and eventually I'll get around to doing a full review, but before that, there's some big stuff happening on the Monster Hunter side of things. We got the 20th anniversary event stream happening on the 12th, and I'll be live reacting to that. I also got more Monster Hunter videos coming soon. I've mentioned a whole bunch now on my passion project, which is now my biggest focus. No promises, but might see it out before the end of March. I also have some other ideas floating around for Monster Hunter videos I want to make. For now, the only one I'll mention is I want to do something special to send off Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, as April 2024 will see the closure of its online support. I love Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate for many reasons. I'll talk about it all there. Well, if you're still listening, thanks, I appreciate that. Please like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. I'm open to dialogue in the comments, and please subscribe for more. Alright, that's all. Have a good one, people. Cheers.